Jacksonville, Florida team. Are we going live now? We're live now.
We're live,
I
yes.
jumped the gun. I think I went too early. Welcome to Living in Jacksonville channel. My name is Greg and my co-host Emily tonight, the lovely Emily Engel. And we're
Hello,
back.
hello.
It's 2024. It's a new year. And may we be so bold to say that we're going to try to talk about market predictions because we're psychic. Not really. But we've got a lot of really good information prepared tonight. I think the stats speak for themselves, really, the data. And if you're new to the channel and you haven't watched us before, we come on every Thursday night at 8 o'clock to talk about everything real estate in Jacksonville, but also anything lifestyles, development, thoughts, restaurants, events, anything that's going on in lifestyle. We talk about it. So if you're watching, wherever you're watching from, go ahead and put in the comments where you're watching from. If you have any questions or anything, we love to hear from you. We're going to acknowledge them as much as we can tonight. And thank you for joining us. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe. And so, Emily, how was your holidays?
They were great. We did some traveling. We went up to the North Georgia mountains, spent some time with family, and then made it back in time for a really chill New Year's Eve. So no complaints here.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I worked all Christmas. Just kidding. I took off Christmas Day, but we had a lot of folks coming into town because people visiting the area, their family, or going to Disney and all that. They're like, hey, we want to just check out some places after Christmas. So we always get busy at the end of the year, and not a lot of real estate brokers are working because they're away or whatnot. So it's like a
So
really
true.
good time to say, yeah, let's go. And I had my in-laws here and family, and if they're watching, I'm sorry, but it was a great excuse to go, sorry, guys. I gotta run. I gotta go show a house. I gotta do this, and so I'd sneak out for a little while, and it was a good little escape because we had like 12 people staying here and 3 dogs. So crazy,
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
crazy, little crazy. And then finally, after the New Year's January 1, we managed to get away and go over to do a little skiing over in Utah Park City. My daughters are young, 6 and 9, so it's fun to see them take some lessons and get to ski with moi. And so that was really fun as well. It was only 5 days, but it was just enough to decompress, love the mountains as well. But I was glad to get out of the snow and come back home.
The photos were so adorable. Their little cheeks were like so red and rosy. It looked like they were having so much fun.
They did. They had a blast. And it's funny, you would think that they would have been complaining about the cold, but us old people were complaining about the cold. It didn't even faze them. They were having so much fun. They were dressed properly, and they really had a good time. I was quite surprised. I thought they were going to moan and whine. It snowed 2 of the days we were there, but they were totally cool about it. So it was awesome to get away. So all my people in Utah, Park City is awesome. Never been there before. Pretty cool place. The real estate is insane. Now I know why everybody's moving here because, my gosh, I was like, the cost of real estate there is insane.
Just like crazy expensive.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about Park City area near the resort and the skis, whatever, and we had a ski instructor, and she said she was trying to buy a 1-bedroom apartment in Park City, $600,000 to $700,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy
So
moly.
when you get, I love when I go to different parts of the country or whatever, I actually get to experience. I always go check out the real estate, and I really do go and kind of zero in on the real estate. Even the townhome that we were renting, we stayed in an Airbnb or a VRBO, and I was like, this thing is outrageous. You know, I would have a real hard time paying for that kind of money, but
Mhm.
people are paying for it, I guess.
Yeah, all about perspective. That's probably like totally normal for them. You know,
Yeah.
every area has like their own sense of normal, but man.
Yeah, she said the condo, 1-bedroom, she could have bought it 3 to 5 years ago for 300 grand. Now it's 600 to 700. So
Wow.
kind of
Holy
what we're
cow.
seeing a little bit here, you know, on certain areas, we've seen pricing double in the last 3, 4 years. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't want to run us off too much on a rampage because I know you're keeping to the time limit tonight.
Yes.
Keep me
Yeah.
on track. My yappity yap mouth try to steer me back.
It's funny
What
because I get so into these conversations too. Like I've mentioned in the past, was previously a high school teacher, and my mom asked me once, "Hey, will you sit in virtually on this IEP meeting for your brother?" And I said,
mm,
"Sure, no problem." But I was so busy, and I kept saying, "Okay, so bringing us back to this," or I just kept making little comments, getting us back on track. And at the end, the principal said, "I'm hiring you to be our official timekeeper of all meetings because this has been the most productive meeting I've ever had." And I'm like, all right, I'm going to channel that tonight, keep us on track
keep it
because we have a
productive.
lot to talk about. Yeah, but
Okay.
it'll be a good conversation.
All
So
right. So where are we
basically,
starting?
we're starting with national housing market predictions for
Okay.
2024 because everyone wants to know, what's the real estate going to be like? Are prices going to keep going up? Is there going to be a crash? We're going into an election year, so that always raises question marks for people. So I did some research, and for those of you watching, there are links to the articles. I pulled this information from in the description if you want to read them yourself. But let's put our faces back up here. So, if we start with mortgage rates and home prices, even if they decrease to around 6%, and for those of you that don't know, they have rates have decreased for 10 weeks straight. They did just tick back up a little bit this week. But we were seeing, some real gains with rates dropping. But even if that happens, the experts are predicting that many homeowners that have a rate below 5% are still going to wait to sell because they want to keep that rate. And I mean, you're out there, Greg, having conversations with people that are thinking about listing. What would you comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, we've said it again. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but basically, if you're locked in at a historic rate of 2.3 or 2.9 or anything 3% or below, it's insanity. So again, I am listing a home, and I told you before we got on here, I'm getting ready to list a home here, and it's people that are relocating for work. It's not they. It's a must. They have a reason of why they're leaving this home. They have some equity, but they're going to need it for where they're going. So people have to have a good, strong reason to move right now. And I think we're seeing a little bit of more listings, but the pricing still seems really high. And my buyers are, pausing and going, when are the prices going to come down? And I go, I'm going to be bold enough to say that pricing is going to get worse this year.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I'm in Nocatee, particularly in this area. We are an anomaly. I think you've shown numbers in the past that show that Nocatee actually overall still went up 2.3% last year, while other markets here in Jacksonville area in the suburbs actually went down a little bit.
Yeah, even December statistics, they just came out, and I looked
Mhm.
at popular areas, Nocatee, Jacksonville Beach, Atlantic Beach, Ponte Vedra Beach. All of them had pricing drops, but Nocatee did not. Their median sales price increased.
Right. And that's all because of supply and demand. We're at the end of a master plan community that's been developing for 20 years, and they're coming towards the end here. It's a very special place as far as location and everything, and it's just priced a lot of folks out. But there's still people that are still remaining hopeful to get in. Um, I don't think things are going to get better if rates go down. A lot of people that have been sitting on the sidelines, and I have a lot of buyers that I've been working with for 1-2 years that have been sitting on the sidelines. They're getting amped up again because they're sick and tired of paying rent, and they're looking for those opportunities. So
Mhm.
again, also, I think January is the best time to buy a house. It's after Christmas. People have spent a lot of money. They're getting back to school. They're not thinking about buying a property. So I'm still seeing the incentives from last year, end of year. I'm seeing them here in January for the builders. But I am telling you that a lot of these incentives are going to be reduced or eliminated at the end of January. So I'm trying to tell anybody, hey, I know it's not the best time to go out and buy a house, but you've been waiting a while. I think this is a good time to strike before the masses start. A lot of appointments with people already for March and April that want to be here in June. A lot of people already. It's
Yeah, I
it's
think that the hardest thing that someone can try and do is time the market. It's always about what's going to work for them because anyone I feel that tries to time the market always ends up behind.
Yeah, and you know, I don't think it's always people trying to time the market. I think I don't have to convince them that there's good incentives if you're buying new construction here in Jacksonville. I don't think I have to convince anybody that. I don't have to convince anybody that if a house has been on the market 60 or 70 days and they did a boo-boo and overpriced it listing it, that maybe they'll be able to, you know, work out a deal. But the problem is that, you know, people have logistical challenges. You
Mhm.
know, people have jobs they're moving over here. They have kids in school, and moving is not cheap anymore. So
Mhm.
not, and then also they have homes to sell. So it's a very difficult proposition in the middle, let's say, you know, January to commit to purchasing a home and then having to close in February or March. But if you're resourceful and you've been waiting on the sidelines and it makes sense for you and you can do it, because it's weird. I've got a lot of people relocating for work here that start in March, April. But if you can do it, and you can lock into a spec home or a home that's going to be ready or close in March or April, and you can get today's pricing and incentives, apply it to that and close, lock that in now in a contract and then close in March or April. That's a home run. It gives you a little bit of runway to get down here. It gives you a little runway to plan logistics and whatnot. So there's a lot of challenges. It's not easy. And that's again why it's a benefit to have a good real estate professional like myself to say, hey, yeah, I know a couple that are going through the same thing right now. This is the different strategies we can work to get you down
Mhm.
here, whether it's transitional housing, you know, really understanding with a good lender what the possibilities are as well.
Definitely. 100%. All right, so
Lock and
let's
effect. Wait
see.
a minute. Push back that last screen. You had lock and effect. Many homeowners with real estate below 5 might delay selling due to lock and effect. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Below 5, I mean, how many people do you know that has a 3.1 mortgage 30-year? It's insanity.
Yeah. Yeah, we have friends that they're in like the high 2s,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, "Can you believe?" And it's funny because they got a beach house for 350,000. It was a fixer upper, but still 350,000. And we talk about it sometimes because even then they were like, "I don't know, I feel like I'm overpaying." And it's just like so crazy to think about prices now compared to then. But
Is that an Atlantic
they're
Beach area you're talking
that's
about?
in Neptune
Neptune
Beach,
Beach.
so right
Yeah.
between Jax Beach and Atlantic Beach.
Yeah.
But you're exactly what you said is what the national they're expecting on the national level as well, that they think prices are going to keep rising. So
Yeah.
let's see, market dynamics. So I really thought this was interesting. Local housing markets disconnected from local incomes might see price declines, especially if remote work policies become more restrictive. The supply gut in certain markets will give renters an advantage with more lease incentives likely. So you had mentioned to me, I'm going to put you on the spot because we didn't talk about this before. You had mentioned to me a while back about a housing development. I can't remember if it was an apartment complex or townhomes, and you said, "Oh yeah, they're building these for people that are like, you know, teachers, public servants, almost teachers,
Mhm.
firefighters, police officers, because housing was getting so expensive." And that's what this made me think of. I know we're talking nationally, but I feel like we've got a little bit of that in our area where the housing market is disconnected from some of these local incomes. And so it looks like they're trying to fill that void a little bit.
Yeah, they are. I think it's also another way for major developers to get the permitting they need. So they say, hey, we're going to do an affordable housing and offer special incentive pricings for service providers, you know, our police, our
Mhm.
teachers, our, you know, all the service providers in our county. And are they doing it out of the greatness of their heart, or is it they're saying, "Hey, the county's saying, look, we need to do something about affordable housing because we do. Even rents are outrageous.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen rents where they used to be 15, 1600 bucks for a 2 bedroom, are now 24 to 2700. So this is a great incentive for an opportunity to be a homeowner at an affordable price. And listen, we need teachers. We need police officers. We need service providers in our county. So let's promote and encourage and help them whatever we can to get them housing.
Yeah. And you're not
Yeah.
even saying that as like a generic, like we need teachers. Like, no, like there's actually shortages for us locally. So I am excited to see that as an option. And again, interesting how like you just see so many parallels. Obviously we have like a lot of micro markets here in Jacksonville. And so sometimes we don't always align with what's going on the national level. But it's interesting to see some of these parallels when we are just looking kind of ahead at what people are predicting.
Yeah. And
So in
another thing,
2023, yeah, go ahead.
okay. Yeah, no, another
No,
thing I
no,
wanted
no.
to mention that I'm finding that people are relocating that are on those virtual, able to work virtually. Some of them are managing to negotiate the salary that they had in San Francisco and move here with that same salary. And our salaries are not
Mm-hmm.
comparable in certain areas. I had nurses from Las Vegas that
Yeah.
told me their same job here in our area does not pay comparable as does to Las Vegas. And I said, well, what's the cost of living in Las Vegas? So it's a real interesting mix up because then you do have some people that are saying, oh, this is cheap. And I've got a San Francisco salary to live there, but I'm working virtually.
Mm-hmm.
So, to them, it's not very expensive at all. So it's a very interesting market to try to figure out.
Absolutely. My sister-in-law is in that same exact situation. She works remote for a company out of San Diego and gets paid their salary that's for that market. And it's quite enjoyable living here in Jacksonville because it is not quite the same. So
No,
you're 100% right.
completely different. Another thing I'm seeing as well that I talked to a couple people from the southern part of Florida. There are certain areas there where you cannot get a primary doctor. There is a waiting list for 1 year.
Oh my goodness.
So if you're moving to a certain area in Florida, make sure you find out when you can see your doctor because there are certain areas. I'm not going to mention them tonight, or maybe I should. I'm actually going to do a whole video about it, to be honest with you, because this is the second couple today that met with, where they're like, "Oh, you're lucky if you get a primary doctor in 1 year." So imagine if you're a retiree or somebody that has some sort of medical issues. Why do you think they're coming to Jacksonville? Oh, because we have Mayo, because we have Baptist, because we have UF, because we have
Hmm.
Wilson's, we have all these medical hospitals and everything. But we need to make sure that we have the staff to continue to
Hmm.
deal with the growth that we're having here.
Yeah, absolutely. So on a national level, just kind of reflecting in 2023, we saw a strong stock market, resilient job market, and the housing market impacted by high mortgage rates, obviously. And then the Federal Reserve did make an effort to soften the landing for the economy. And they are continuing to make these efforts into 2024, they have said, which is providing a lot of people hope and optimism for what is going to happen with rates moving into this next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's a constant. You hear, no one can predict where the rates are going to go. Like,
Never.
our last live, we were talking about how rates went down 10, 11 weeks, like you said, something in that regard. And then they bumped up recently, but then they went down a little bit again. They're all over the place. I question sometimes if they even know, but I think truly with an election year, I think we're going to see some definitely level out, a little more stability with the rates
Mhm.
going into election year. Everybody's seeing third and fourth quarter. Who really knows?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that's what we see. Okay, so now let's talk about the actual predictions. A little more specific. I know we were kind of speaking in broad terms earlier. So, this is what I found. Existing home sales are expected to increase as rates decline, which makes sense. New home sales are predicted to continue rising because we have a lack of inventory. And rents are likely to stabilize or maybe even decline in some markets due to an oversupply of renting options.
Yeah, so I think that's all spot on. I think it's very interesting when you mention the rents because a lot of big investors bought major apartment buildings and whatnot, and they always are trying to push rents to increase their revenue. And a lot of these commercial loans are 3 to 5 to 7 year loans. They're not like a 30-year. And so
Mhm.
all the ones that bought in 2017, 2020, a lot of their refinancing is coming up and the rates are way higher than what they
Mm.
anticipated or forecasted. So they may have to really make up for those numbers. Also, insurance has gone up, home insurance has gone up, and so has commercial insurance gone up. So on a commercial level, we're seeing a lot of people hurting right now. So that may continue to drive rents down because they've been increasing steadily over and over every year unnaturally. So I think there needs to be a little correction there. I don't think it'll be huge, but you know what they always say in real estate, commercial always follows residential. And I feel like last year, a lot of realtors across the country, except me, just kidding, had a little less sales last year because their sales were so incredible 2021
Mhm.
or 2023, 2022. A lot of people's sales weren't as high in 2023. And that's a little bit of correction in certain areas, right? Some of the prices had to come back down to earth. And now I think we're going to see that with the commercial space. And a lot of my commercial investor networks are saying, hey, we're really getting ready for some deals.
That's exciting because I know that when my husband was trying to find another commercial space for his company, I mean, we went and looked at a few places and then they tell you the price and we were like, "What?" So,
Yeah,
that's exciting. Where that's good news
they're
to
going to have to do
hopefully that
Yeah, they're
yeah.
going to have to do something about it. I had a person that decided to not renew their commercial lease because they said they weren't willing to pay that anymore. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna have to, like you said, something's gonna have to happen. So housing starts vary by sector. I love when people say stuff like that because it's like, you can't quote me. It'll just it depends. But
yeah.
um
Mhm.
will vary by sector. Single family homes rebounding, multifamily starts potentially falling is the prediction on the national level. Building permits are expected to rise for single family, but again, fall for multifamily units. And then rates are predicted to remain over 6%, influenced by various factors. So, obviously, predictions are always going to be a little vague. So, no one can say, you said this is exactly what's going to happen, but it at least gives us kind of a general sense.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this before, and I said I bought my first house at 6 and a quarter, and I was thought that was a great deal. So
Yeah.
it's just a matter of what the new normal is going to be and what people can anticipate. It's not really so much for rates with people, it's really about what's my monthly payment going to be. So we
Mhm.
really try to, when a buyer calls me up, I really try to get them with one of my preferred lenders and say, hey, you really need to sit down and figure out what your monthly, what can you afford monthly. Let's not just focus on the rates, because you don't have that stability yet where rates have been consistent. But I think sixes is a safe prediction, if you will. I'd love to see them around 5.5, and go below six again. I think if that happens, oh my gosh, single family is going to blow up because
Absolutely.
there's so much demand. There are so many people still renting that are really anxious to buy. We've had a shortage of housing for so long, and then Florida being an anomaly. People are still calling from California and New York and New Jersey. Still calling.
Yeah.
Not
That's
changed.
actually I even have some statistics on that later. So you're 100% right. I was going to see if you are feeling the same thing that I found in my research. So
Yeah, guys.
definitely.
I mean, listen, Emily's got the stats. She's got the numbers. She's got the research. I don't have time to research. I've been with people all day to literally up to this phone call. I'm exhausted, but I love it. I love meeting with you people. Call me. I love to help you out. But I'm out there talking and
Mhm.
dealing with people every single day. So my knowledge is nothing to do with numbers. I'm just talking about my pure daily experience from all the people that are coming into town visiting with me, and a great deal are from out of town. But I still have a lot of buyers that are local, that are renting, that are waiting. And those are the
Absolutely.
ones that I worry for the most because they're just sick and tired of being sick and tired. They're sick of paying those high rents. So yes, I love that you're backing everything up with data. I didn't study this before this call. Everything, in my opinion, is purely from my experience.
It's so great that you said that. I've got like a reading goal for 2024, and I was reading this book earlier, and they talk about the difference between being in the arena versus being on the sidelines. And you are like in the arena. And so it's totally different. You're out there, you're experiencing it, and that's where I feel like the real knowledge is at, if that makes sense. Because people can predict all they want, but if you're not out there doing the work and hearing the questions and negotiating the deals and whatnot, you don't really have your finger on the pulse of what's going on, and you do. And so I love that you have that perspective to lend.
Yeah,
So
I'm in the trenches, and I will tell you that it changes constantly. I
mhm,
was like November, people were like, I'm slow, I'm slow. I talk to my builders all the time. We're slow, we're slow, we're slow. December, we were swamped at the end of the year. They had
mhm.
all these incentives, they were giving away great deals, and they got a lot of people that just wanted to be in before the end of the new year. So who knows? And then January 1 comes. Oh, we're quiet again. January 29th, remember I said that on the next live. You're probably going to go, why do you look like such crap? Because I'm going to be running like a madman at the end of January all the way through to the end of July, August, maybe even September, just like last year. You watch. Remember I said that.
Right? Get
Remember
ready, lace those shoes.
the lighting, and I'm going to look really thinner than I even do now. Um, you wait.
That's great. All right, so let's talk about the Sunshine State, good old Florida. What was going on at our state level? So, median sales price did increase a little bit, not much, but from just over 400,000 to about 410,000. Inventory rose by just under 10%, which is so interesting because inventory is rising, but we still have such a lack of inventory. So imagine, just like you were saying, that if rates do continue to drop, still with this lack of inventory, it is going to be crazy if you are wanting to buy. And so, talking to that professional to help you figure out what's going to work for you is just so important. Closed sales decreased just over 5%. And then the median time to sale increased to 71 days, which is not reflective of our market at all. You have to think we are talking about the entire state of Florida, but that's what was seen in the fourth quarter of last year for the state of Florida.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have a hard time with any of this because first of all, I'd like to split Florida into two states. So if
Yeah.
anybody's listening, forgive me if you're offended by that. But I think Orlando South should be one state, and Orlando North we should be another state. I don't know what we would call it, but right in that middle area is totally two different states, in my opinion. So the stats in the market are we've said it all last year. We're in a hyper local focused market, and so there's just way too many factors involved in each area. Um,
Mhm.
and I guess that's why they used the word sector on that last a slide.
Yeah.
But definitely 400 grand. I mean, in South Florida, that would maybe be a one bedroom condo or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you can
No,
get 400 grand. I mean, I think for 400 grand, 450, you can get a house here in St. Johns County, like World Golf Village or what that. So it's just completely different depending on what
it
you're
is.
talking
And
about.
like even within, you think about where you could live or where you could purchase a property with that amount in the state, but even in just this Northeast Florida, Jacksonville area, I could find a pretty decent property that I would enjoy living in here in my area. I remember when Travis and I were house shopping, looking a little while back, we found like a really nice updated pool home for like 390, I think.
Mhm.
But you could never get something like that in some of the like really sought after northern St. John's in that area. So again, even just our market being hyper local. So It's really important to break down these numbers, which is why I wanted to put them up here, because I'm thinking we have so many people that are relocating to this area. And if someone just hops on and Googles Florida housing market predictions 2024, and this is what they see, and this is their expectation, and there was no context provided, that would be a really hard conversation to have depending on where you're wanting to move. So important to have that context. Also right here, important to have that context. So these Jacksonville, Orlando, and Miami were listed as Florida's major cities with their median list price. And Greg, I mean, you literally just said it. To find something in Miami in the 400,000s it's a tough, it's not going to be the same. Yeah.
Yeah. And then your HOAs are going to be about 500 to 1,000 a month. But yeah, I mean, same with Orlando. I mean, we flew in and out of Orlando, and I did not even recognize Orlando when I went in there. We flew out of the airport. It was insanity. Their growth has been massive, just absolutely massive. And so you can't get a place in Orlando for 425 in the city or any of those high end areas. You're literally got to be looking in the suburbs, and that could drive you 30, 45 minutes outside of Orlando, where most people would watch these YouTube go, that's not Orlando, Lake Mary's not Orlando. So these numbers are very, they're just a gist of an idea. I mean, maybe if you're California, you'd be like, yeah, same property would be 7-8 million. So it's all relative.
It's just a metric, and it's so interesting. Sometimes, obviously, there's no way you would be able to look at all of the data points. And sometimes the average isn't a good data point to look at, because you're going to have certain values that really skew that. Bless you. But with this median, just as a reminder, take you back to high school algebra, viewers, median is the dead middle. Like, that is the dead middle of the absolute lowest price to the absolute highest price. So you have to think this is going to fluctuate depending on what you want and where. Again, why I wanted to provide context on these numbers, because you're going to be disappointed if you're thinking, oh my gosh, I have this, beautiful idealized image of myself moving to Orlando or Miami, thinking that you're going to pay that because this is what Google told you. It might not always align. So having, just a little bit of perspective is key. So compared to the national market, Florida's median listing price in November of last year was a little bit higher. We do have a strong real estate market in Florida. People are moving here for so many reasons. We've got no state income tax. So that's really helpful, especially with, like you said, so many remote work opportunities. Getting to move to Florida but not get taxed on their income. I remembered when we moved and we did our taxes for the first time, I was like, oh, it's so nice having to not having to pay state income taxes when we moved to Georgia.
And people like me and other Floridians take that for granted. I love that you said that. You paid state income tax. I pay it now on my rental property in Blue Ridge, Georgia, and it sucks. So
it does.
You mentioned it. Yeah, there's so many people that are here that don't even understand that. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it.
It's definitely a driving factor. And think about too, the people, I mean, we mentioned this on the last live, I believe, but the celebrities that are moving here. I mean, Ed Milet just bought a house in Northeast Florida. Didn't Jeff Bezos just buy a house in South Florida?
Who?
I think so. Jeff Bezos.
Oh, yeah. He bought a place in Miami, I believe. I think they're all moving to Palm Beach, Miami, all these islands off those areas, because it just makes financial sense, especially at that level of income and wealth.
Absolutely.
No doubt about it.
Okay, so 2024 predictions for the state of Florida. So this said buyers and sellers anticipated to adopt a wait and see approach due to high interest rates and price growth. I don't know about that. I mean, what do you think?
Man, I really hope not. I mean, I'm working with a lot of buyers. Our business is about having as many people in our pipeline that we can help out. It's like juggling balls, and people are in and they're out, and they're in and they're out, or they see a house or they don't. There's just, and I really do feel that this is accurate. There are people that are truly using that wait and see approach, and it scares the living crap out of me because if I say I'm going to provide a service to you and help you find a home, and you tell me, hey, I think, can you find me a rental and we're going to wait? My heart drops because I know that conversation next year is going to be, golly, houses were 100 grand or 30 grand cheaper last year. I should have bought. That's
Absolutely.
been the story for the last 3, 4, 5 years.
That is not an exaggeration. 100 grand is not an exaggeration even in our area.
No, no, it's not. I mean, we have new builds in Coral Ridge here in Nocatee, some of the larger estate lots, 70, 80-foot lots. Getting emails from the builder rep that my folks are building with saying, hey, by the way, this same house costs $78,000 more today to buy than last year. So you have 78 grand equity. They have not a lot of supply left. And so that's accurate. That's accurate. Based on the resales and what people are paying, that's accurate. So 78 grand, really? That's a lot of money to pay 1 year later.
Yeah, absolutely. Interest rates expected to decrease, which we've already been seeing. We're like, I don't even know what week we are in the year. The second week into the year, and for the last 8 weeks of 2023, we saw decreases. So, with a prediction to drop from about 7.5 to just under 6.5 by the end of the year. Like you said, hopefully it's maybe even a little bit more. These numbers are so like, let me rub the crystal ball, see, no one really knows, but this is just what's expected.
Mm-hmm.
And then inventory challenges persist. We have a continued need for more housing to meet demand. This is especially in South Florida, so I can't imagine how it is down there because I know how badly we need inventory up here.
Yeah, I mean, it's this is the awesome thing, right? Because I'm from South Florida and we used to call it a concrete jungle. The only land to build there is the Everglades, and it's all swamp, and it's protected, by the way. So the reality is that there's no more building to do down there. A lot of people are moving north in South Florida to northern places. Like you'll see Port St. Lucy's blowing up. And there's really not a whole lot there. It's coming, but they're just building tons and tons of houses because they have the land to do that there. And we have the land up here in Northeast Florida, and it's happening. Here in St. Johns County, we're going to see 15 to 20,000 more houses being built in the next 10 years. That's pretty exciting stuff for someone in my business. Some people might be disheartened by that, but we need the housing. The development is going to happen anyway. It's just as long as we create the infrastructure that can handle it as well. So
absolutely. It's funny because I just shared something on Facebook today and some people messaged me and they're like, thank you for sharing this actually. But I live close to the new Seven Pines community, and they just redid like the interstate exit system to make that run a little more smoothly. And I'm like, I'm so glad because that would have been just such a headache. So I kind of like, some people don't really like the master plan community, not life, but like just, I guess some people are like, leave it untouched or whatever, but to have that like bird's eye view planning perspective, thinking through all of the possible things, I think is so important. Because it's going to keep everyone happy, is as happy as possible in the end. You're not going to ever please everybody, but
the concept works. It works. Creating a community lifestyle, it works. That community, that location is spectacular. It's not cheap. But I like that development. I like David Weekley. I like ICI. They're pretty decent builds. It's just not a cheap area, but the location is fantastic. One thing I can tell you about Northeast Florida and Jacksonville is we're very spread out. So it's not as congested as you would see maybe in a South Florida or in a downtown Orlando area or whatnot. So we are unique in the fact that we're one of the biggest, and we're one of the biggest cities, but physically, right? So
yeah, landmass wise, absolutely. Okay, so Greg, when's the market going to crash? That was actually something in this article was people are still saying, or I'm going to wait for the crash.
Yeah.
So I won't spoil the ending. I'll let you do it. When's the market gonna crash?
Oh, I'm not holding my breath. Again, I go back to the whole excuse that we're hyper local, that Florida is still a big migration area. As long as the issues that we're having in some of the other parts of the United States, people are still going to come to this area. It's great. Um, you know, I gotta be humble in this, because I think there's some people that are actually hoping for it to crash so that they can have an opportunity.
So true. So
Yeah,
true.
I think it's kind of like a hope for some. Let's have a correction. Let me have an opportunity to buy again.
Well, and
I
correction
ju-
and crash are not the same thing. I do think that we needed a market correction. I think in our area, prices were getting so astronomical. I think we brought this up on a recent live, but we talked about appraisal gaps and like people were just, I remember writing an offer with a $75,000 appraisal gap and not getting it. We
Mm.
didn't get it, and, like, that's just how crazy our market was back in 2020, 2021, and so I think we needed a
Really quick,
correction.
yeah, just really quick for people that don't understand an appraisal gap, that means that she was representing a buyer that was willing to pay $75,000 extra in cash over the appraisal at price to cover the
Mhm.
difference, and they still didn't get it. Yeah.
And we still didn't get it, which means someone else made some sort of better terms, and it was a cash deal in general. So they were going to do an appraisal. I think maybe they were going to do like a $25,000 mortgage for tax purposes,
Mhm.
but it was basically cash, and that meant that there was a higher slash better offer. So I think we needed the correction, but correction does not necessarily mean crash. And at the national level and at the state of Florida level and at the local level, experts are predicting prices to continue rising. Not as drastically as we've seen them rise over the last few years, but they don't expect them to fall.
No, all indicators are saying it's going to keep going up. I don't know, maybe we're going through overpopulation or whatnot, but yeah, I'm not optimistic of that. Um, yeah, I don't see it at all. I don't feel it. It reminds me of a story because I was around 2006, 7, 8, and 9, and I was in South Florida, and that was one of the areas that got hit hard in the last crash, if you will. And that was because of mortgage-backed securities. They were offering anybody and their mom a mortgage, and people were just buying up properties and flipping them. So it was a different time back then, and a lot of people haven't forgotten about it. And so, the anticipation is there because it's happened before. And people are like, we don't forget, especially if you went through it and you went through a foreclosure or whatnot. But this is different times. And then also with COVID, it's really changed disposition of the state of Florida. And we just have overall a shortage. And if anything, it's really opened up to a lot of beautiful areas of Florida that people have never even considered living. Like, my brother's like, I love Crystal River. I'm like, where is Crystal River? You know what
Right. I love
I
that.
Yeah, or Tallahassee or whatnot. And,
Mhm.
and I'm like, now these areas people are going there because it's affordable and it's actually really nice. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
No, I love that. Such a great point. Okay, so now let's talk about Northeast Florida. So we have some market predictions, but first we'll do a brief overview. So why do people like Jacksonville? This article says that it's because it's an attractive location because of the job market and reasonable cost of living, both of which I can agree with. Median sold price is currently 295. I feel like that's a little low. 7% increase from 2022, and the median list price averages just over 300,000. And just to go, kind of like zoom out from the statistics for a second, Jacksonville has an NFL team. We've got an international airport. We have an actual port. We're close to the Georgia border. I love that we're in this like little dip of the state. So we don't normally get hit with the hurricanes really, really badly compared to some of the other areas in the state. So all of these reasons also play into why Jacksonville is an attractive place to live.
Massive industry here. One of the bigger Amazon DCs. We have CRX. We have Gate headquarters. A lot of bank headquarters are here. What's that baby powder company baby powder? What company is that?
Johnson & Johnson.
Yeah, they have 3,000 employees here. We have so much industry here. And again, like my people said today, they're coming here for better medical care or better options for hospitals and doctors and whatnot. So there's so many reasons why people come here, but I think it's because our economy is solid and our job unemployment rate is below the average here in the state of Florida. Because there is so many job opportunities. So it's kind of cool because people that are looking to move to the area and they say, oh, well, I need to find a job there if they can't work virtually. And it's cool because I'm seeing some people that are finding jobs and that's cool to see going, okay, great. There's opportunity here.
Yeah, definitely. Whenever I was looking for an opportunity outside of teaching, I signed up on something and I'm like constantly getting emails still because I just never turned it off of like job alerts. So the opportunities are definitely here. I think so. I mean, I
Yeah.
love living in Jacksonville. I'm trying to move my whole family down here from Georgia. It's probably not going to happen, but I'm going to try.
Yeah. Well, hey, remember you said medium sales price on there, 295, averages of 304. I have a buddy, I don't know if he's watching, but shout out. I know he has a cute little home that he completely gutted and renovated in Murray Hill down there by is it Avondale, the 5 Points. So, I
Yeah,
mean, he's at 333,000. It's a really cute home and everything. So new everything inside. It's small, but still, my point being is that you can get in a house for $330,000. It's really cute in a very historic area,
absolutely.
near a very trendy little area. That's awesome.
Murray Hill is on the come up. I love Murray Hill. You've got historic homes, but like you said, most of them are being renovated. It's becoming more and more walkable. There are more businesses going over there. It's kind of like a mini Riverside, and definitely more affordable than Riverside and Avondale, which are very desirable places here. So, yeah, shout out to your buddy because Murray Hill is awesome.
Cool.
Okay, 16% decrease in the number of homes sold compared to the previous year. I think that this is a result probably of, like we talked about in the beginning, what did they call it? I don't remember. But when people's rates are so low that they don't want to sell, like there are people that might have made a move sooner than that, like, typical average of 5 to 7 years, but aren't because they have good rates, or they're thinking, I can't afford something similar at the current rate.
Yeah. My numbers don't reflect that because that's purely because of where I did a bulk of my business, supply and demand. But nationally in Florida, I can see that. You've got to remember that we saw the biggest slowdown in sales after school started, and then when rates hit 8% in November, 8%. 8%. It was unaffordable to buy a home at 8% for
Absolutely.
the majority of people. The only people that were buying homes, by the grace of God, that I represented were people that had enough equity in the previous home that they were paying more than half down or paying cash, fully paying cash. So that decrease, is because 2022 was bananas. So 2023 finally leveled out a little bit. And in some areas, it still kept trucking along. So I didn't realize it was that high. 16% seems like a lot, but that's the stats. That's the stats.
Yeah, I don't quite know the source where this. No, I sourced, or I cited my source with the article. I don't know where they pulled their stats from,
That seems
but
good.
yeah, I mean, definitely a dip. And it says days on market increased to 52 days. I feel I'm checking the statistics every month because I do market updates for us every month, and I haven't quite seen them that high. But you have to think of like it's including the entire area. Some of the super desirable areas aren't really seeing that long on market if they're priced right. I'll see a home sit on the market for over 100 days because it's way overpriced.
Yeah,
But if they're priced right,
I'm saying 45 to 60 days. My problem is, and we talked about this already, and it sounds like I'm beating a dead horse. We go to a listing appointment and they want last year's pricing. It is absolutely imperative if you're listing a home today that you find someone that is going to be genuinely honest, a real estate professional that is going to be genuinely honest on the correct way to list your home, which is the number one thing, is to price it right coming out of the chute. And then, of course, marketing it properly, staging it properly, and whatnot. And a lot of people last year got hurt. The 60 and 120-day listing, they listed way too high because they were talking about their neighbor who got that 3 months before. That's a lifetime in our market last year. And it's probably going to be a lifetime in this market. So it is absolutely imperative that you price the home properly coming out of the gate right now, and make sure that you stage it properly. And it is imperative. First impressions are everything. So there's so many variables that go into that. So I think the days the market have gone up. Those are the houses. They're not priced realistically where they should be. They're not priced correctly and listed correctly. Or they're just people that are saying, hey, I really don't care. There's
right. And some people do say that.
They don't. They don't care. They go, I want what I want. Take it or leave it.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. It's funny. I'm going to point out, Greg said at the beginning of this live that he was so busy today, he did not even have time to look at any of the stuff I sent him about tonight. And it's funny because it's like you're reading these things before I put them on the screen, because you're just talking about the importance of pricing it right. And we're still talking about kind of what happened this last year. So the market remains somewhat competitive. Sale to list price ratio did drop to 96.9%. About 16% of homes were sold above list price, but this is the number that I want to point out. There was a 32.9% rate of homes with price drops, because I definitely think people were finding, this is what I want. But there are some people that, even if they don't care, they still got to sell their house no matter what. And they're finding that that's just not where the market was anymore.
No, and the other thing is when you have realtors that are doing them a disservice by saying, yeah, I'll list it at that price. They're devaluing your home in the long term. Every time your house sits on the market for over 30 days, you're devaluing what you could have gotten initially if you priced it correctly.
Absolutely. So you mentioned this earlier about people moving to Florida. We know people are moving to Florida, which we're actually doing a video about people leaving Florida versus moving Florida coming up. But people are also moving specifically to this Northeast Florida area. We had some notable migration patterns. Some people moving out of Jacksonville, but we're still getting more people coming in than we are going out. Coming from places like Washington, D.C., New York, Miami. Where are some other places that you're seeing people choose to pick up their roots and move them on down to Florida?
So I'm still okay. So I am seeing a lot of people from the South Florida region and the Panhandle are getting out. God bless all the people in Panama Beach that got hit by the tornado. I feel terribly awful. My wife sent me a link to some of the damage that was done, and it was horrific. And it just brings back the fact that a lot of the coastal cities in Florida, South Florida, Southwest Florida, Southeast Florida, and the Northwest Panhandle are the most susceptible to hurricanes and storms, especially on the Gulf Coast. So we're seeing massive increases in insurance. My car insurance just got jacked up yesterday, which was incredible. So it's not just home insurance, it's car insurance. And so I have to say that, I'm seeing a lot of people within Florida actually moving to our area. People from today were from Port St. Lucie, still from New York. I have people even from Atlanta. I have people from California, Delaware. If you're listening, we're going to get you over here. We're working on a deal too. The family got a job offer here from Delaware. So yeah, we've got people coming in from other Chicago, relocation
Mhm.
to Chicago. Where else? A couple from Chicago, California. Yeah, you know what? The one thing I've only had last year. I only had because I was looking at my numbers last year of where everybody came from and where the most came from, and that was from California and New York and New Jersey. But I still have people from the New England area, Baltimore,
Mhm.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You have DC on there, same difference. But I only had one family from Texas.
Interesting. That
Yeah,
I think
everybody's
was
moving to
actually
Texas as well. So
yeah, I think that was on the list of, like, people that are leaving Florida, where are they going? And I think Texas was surprisingly one of them.
yeah, Austin,
Um,
Texas is on fire. Austin,
yeah.
Dallas. Yeah, yeah,
No,
for sure.
definitely. I haven't been, but I've heard it's, like, so amazing.
It is.
Um, okay, so experts are predicting in our area a slowdown in the market, but no crash because the fundamentals of our market remain strong. Now, slow down, again, it's all about perspective. Slow down from what? Slow down from where we have been. Still, maybe more so of like a normalization. The city is experiencing growth in some of the fastest growing neighborhoods in Florida. Nocatee was like the fastest growing neighborhood in Florida for a while. It might still be. You could comment on that potentially.
Yeah,
And
we're always competing with Lakewood Ranch in Sarasota. That's the other big master plan community area that a lot of people are looking at as well. It's Nocatee.
okay, okay, yeah. And then potential for higher returns on investment in real estate as well. I mean, you mentioned it earlier. People have seen their home equity grow tremendously over the past few years, which is another reason that such a great place to live here in Northeast Florida.
Well, you need that equity if you're going to move anywhere.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just so interesting too, because I feel like that's why so many people from out of state were able to so smoothly make a move to this area. Because if you're coming from New York, where those prices are so much higher comparatively, they're coming with equity from with cash from their home sale, and then able to potentially buy a home for cash or very little, that has to be financed. I feel like I saw a lot of but yeah.
Great place to live, great opportunity. You're going to need your equity wherever you move. And even if you move from here and you go back to wherever you came from, in certain areas, you're still going to need your equity because people that are moving here have to sell their homes from wherever they're moving from. And I'll tell you what, I mean, people say, oh, it's not going to take long for my house to sell. And I'm always reluctant because I don't know their market. And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, I don't know that, but let's see.
So
And a
true.
lot of people are able to sell their home depending on where they're coming from. So.
So true. Okay, so more predictions. Market is expected to continue facing challenges, but also show some promise for growth. What challenges do you think that our market is going to continue to face in 2024?
I think one of the challenges I see are the cost of living going up and pricing going up, just like anywhere else. I
Hmm.
really tell people, hey guys, we're not just talking about where you're locking in on the interest rate as far as affordability. That's why I'm not focusing on the interest rate. I'm looking at what's your monthly bill going to be. So insurance rates have gone up. We're still some of the lower insurance rates in the state of Florida. That's another reason why we're
True.
such a great area. I mean, you can basically insure your home for a couple grand up here, depending on the house and whatnot, with flood and all. So I just think the cost of living overall, you really have to make sure that you understand that, not only what the rate you're locking in, but what are your insurance costs going to be? Your property taxes, what are they going to be? Somebody said, oh, well, the county must be making a killing. Well, I'm like, no, because the county has to keep up with the infrastructure with all this massive growth.
Hmm.
You have to pay for
Absolutely.
bigger roads. I mean, look at 210. They have to expand it. That's going to cost a lot of money. Same with the exit with Seven Pines. So that all costs a lot of money. So I think our challenge really for us specifically is just keeping up with the growth and maintaining the
Mhm.
proper infrastructure, maintaining our schools. again, for people that are watching in the future, we're going to be interviewing more people in the school district to really get an idea of what we need here to maintain the great schools that Northeast Florida has. And so those are going to be the challenges I expect to see.
Okay. Yeah. And they're all manageable, especially compared to some of the challenge that other markets are facing, I think. So I kind of wanted to end us tonight. We're almost at our hour. These were the hottest neighborhoods in Northeast Florida in 2023. No surprise that Nocatee was at number one. We've got some Duval neighborhoods like Deer Creek, Avondale, Deerwood, and then we've got some that are in Clay County, some St. Johns County. I wanted to ask you what you think the hottest neighborhoods will be in 2024. Do you think Nocatee will maintain its number one spot?
Yeah, I do. I really do not. I think Nagatee's towards the end here. We're going to keep that going this year, no doubt about it. There's still phase 2 and 3 coming in Seabrook, which are 40 and 50 foot lots. I wish there was more 70 and 80 foot lots, but there's only a few left there. I think Nagatee's still a great place to live. Palm Valley, we're talking Ponte Vedra Beach. It's so unaffordable now. It's gotten really, it's very expensive there. Insurance is a little higher because of flooding and whatnot in certain areas, and you're going to have to do a lot of renovation. So it's just really become unaffordable in certain areas for the majority of people. I love Jacksonville Beach, man. I just dig it. It's right in between Ponte Vedra Beach and Neptune and Atlantic Beach. And I think that whole area between Ponte Vedra and Atlantic and everything is just such a cool area, and so many opportunities for growth. We're seeing so much I don't want to say gentrification, but just, so much new development going on in Jacksonville Beach. And it's just such beautiful real estate that, that's my eye on right now to purchase in there. I did do a video on this on Niche's top places to live. And a lot of these places were listed on that niche. It was voted by the residents of the areas, and a lot of these were on there. I like Fruit Cove and Fleming Island, great family areas. Fruit
Definitely.
Cove, really, if you're not looking for HOA. So I think that's awesome. And then Avondale, we kind of talked about Avondale and Berry Hill. So there's just the coolest thing about Northeast Florida is we have such a variety of living, depending on what you want. You want HOA, you want master plan, you want beach living, do you want
historic homes, walkability, like there is something for everyone everywhere.
100%. Yep. We'll leave it at that.
Love that. Okay. We're at the end of our hour. I just want to say a quick thank you to you, Greg, and to our viewers who every week deal with my annoying dog in the background.
Oh, come on.
I don't know if you guys could hear her. She was destroying a book earlier, and I'm trying to get her to stop, and she wasn't. And then she was destroying my book bag. And I just have to quickly share this because Greg thought it was hilarious as well. But this dang dog, you guys, thank you for putting up with her. Oh, let's see if it'll let me. She is the destroyer. So I have, if you're familiar, if you've ever heard of the breed, she is an African Boerboel. She is part of the Mastiff family. She is a 1-year-old puppy that is 130 pounds. So wow. Like you can't really wrestle with her, because she's just bigger than you. But she ate my glasses last week. Wow. So she's just constantly destroying everything. But I just wanted to thank you all for putting up with her. Because if I just had her in her kennel, she would bark the whole time. So I have to let her out. So thank you, everyone.
Keeping it real. Northeast Florida, one of the friendliest dog places to live. Everybody here is massively friendly with animals. So Ari is definitely welcome to our show anytime whatsoever. Hey guys, I also want to mention too, and we can't forget, we've got so much cool stuff planned for this year. We're going to talk pickleball. If you're into this new national sport, where you want to live here in Jacksonville and the cool places, we're going to talk about the education. We've just got so many cool topics that we're going to come up, but that is not it, folks. If you watch this, and if you're not watching it in real time, put a comment below on something that you would like us to talk about on Thursday
Please.
nights. And we would love to discuss it with you. Jump on the call, send send us some questions or whatnot, and we will definitely address it. So we appreciate you. Subscribe to the channel. Watch the videos I'm putting out every week. And of course, if you're thinking about moving to the area, we'd love to be your resource of choice. Call me, text me, email me. My information's in the description below. I answer the phone. This is my number. It's my phone. So people call me. Like, yeah, it's me. Just me. God, I hope I can keep that going, Emily. I really do, but it keeps it personalized. Or I'll text and say, hey, I'll call you in a little bit. But yes, it's me. Love to help you. Thanks for watching. And thank you, Emily. As always, fantastic job tonight.
Of course. Everyone have a lovely evening, and we will see you all next week.
We only went 4 minutes over. Are we still on? Nope, we're still on.